Witcher 2 is an RPG game developed by the Polish studio CD Projekt Red in 2011 to follow up the first game. The story is set in a fantasy world and it follows a monster hunter, or also known as witchers in this universe, called Geralt, as he is falsely accused of the murder of a king. The story follows Geralt as he tries to clear his name and regain his memory. So yeah, onto the game then. The visuals aren't great, but they're good, they're not bad. Nothing really noteworthy about them. So where the game really shines is the story, the narrative, the characters, and the world building. The world isn't a super generic fantasy world, it has its own ideas, it's not just elves and dwarves and orcs and trolls and shit like that. It definitely has its own things, but it's a little bit generic, but it's good. I love the characters in this game, though Geralt is a little bit boring. He's a video game main protagonist, so I can't really complain there. I enjoyed almost every character in this story, even the minor characters were well written, fun and entertaining, and all of these characters are impacted by the choices you make in the game, and the choices are pretty important. For example, the whole Act 2 is based on one choice you make in Act 1. Depending on what you chose in Act 1, Act 2 will be completely different, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, onto the gameplay. The combat is serviceable, it's okay, but it's definitely not great. The controls aren't too tight. You can just, since every attack stuns your enemy for a while, you can just stun lock your enemies to death, and most of the fights they just spam a million enemies and you just stun lock them one by one. You have 5 spells, but you hardly ever need to use any one. I hardly ever need to use more than 2 of them. 3 of them were completely useless. Changing between the spells and the ranged weapons is annoying and tedious. It's why can't you drink potions mid-battle? That is weird too. I mean, even the bosses, there were maybe like 5 bosses in the game, 5 or 6 bosses in the game. One of them was maybe good. The bosses have like a million HP and they can like 3-shot you, and it's frustrating as hell because the hitboxes don't even work half of the time. Rolling doesn't give you invincibility frames, so the bosses are just so tedious. They take forever. So it just feels like a dollar store Dark Souls. So, but it's still an improvement from whatever the hell the first Witcher's combat is, but still not great. There are a lot of other nitpicks I'd like to make about the game, like most of the side quests being pretty boring, most of them were fetch quests. Items feel like they have 0 value in this game, like 90% of them are completely useless. Enemies drop like 7 items each and you use none of them for anything. And even apart from the items, I feel like there were a lot of useless things in the games that didn't really need to be there, like traps, you never need them. Crafting mechanic that is completely useless. There's like 2 places in the whole game where you can craft and they craft nothing good. So yeah, it just overall doesn't feel too polished. At the end of the day, I still think the story makes up for all of that shit. It's somehow still an improvement from the first Witcher, I don't know how. And yeah, I give it a 7 out of 10, but if weren't for the story, yeah, this game would belong in the dumpster.